Games, Brrraaains A Head-Banging Life here with another episode of The Nasties. And this time we're looking at the 1981 Lucio Fulci, however you say his last name, directed Fulci, The House by the Cemetery, as here by the Blu-ray copy by Arrow. Always by Arrow, it seems. A lot of the major ones were by Arrow. Comes with a shit ton of special edition contents. High definition digital transfer. It does look very, very nice. You get English and Italian original mono audio, optional English subtitles for both the English and the Italian audio tracks. An audio commentary with star Caterina McCall, moderated by Callum Waddle. Audio commentary with co-star Sylvia Colatina, which is moderated by Mark Baronassus of Paru Productions. An introduction to the film by star Giovanni Frezza. Back to the Cellar interview with star Giovanni Frezza. Cemetery Women interview with star Caterina McCall. Through Freudstein's Follies, interviews with special effects artist Giantenno Di Rossi. Finishing the Final Fulci, interview with Sergio Stivoletti about his completion of Wax Mask after Fulci's passing. Ladies of Italian Horror, featuring Silvia Colatini, The House by the Cemetery, Stefani Cassini, Suspiria and the Bloodstained Shadow, and Barbara Mangaloffi, Suspiria and the Sister of Ursula. So almost unrelated to this, really. Easter eggs, apparently, and reversible sleeve featuring the original and newly commissioned artwork by Rick Melton. So, of course, that is the new artwork, and the original that I knew it under when I first saw it is, of course, that.
Ooh, I like that better.
The House by the Cemetery.
Oh, I like that better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
So I'd seen this one before this. I've seen this before. Remembered enough, particularly the villain stood out, how he looked and so on. Not a lot else, to be honest.
Yeah.
Not a lot else. So, yeah, we'll get into it. So, obviously, this is a nasty, and it was one of the prosecuted ones. And a bit more of the infamous prosecuted ones, I believe. So, it was passed with over 4 minutes cut in 1988. So, 7 years after its release, over 4 minutes. That is an incredible amount.
That's a big old wedge of film.
Yeah, when you can compare it to something like Cannibal Holocaust, which also had a ton cut. But what was cut from that to this? It's like, well, you were cutting real life animal slaughter.
Yeah.
What were you cutting in this? Gore? Yeah. Eventually, it was re-released in 2001, but with 33 seconds cut. So even in 2001, we still weren't okay with it.
Yeah.
Which is odd. Yeah. Finally, uncut in 2009, The Changing Times. In the UK, obviously where the Video Nasty scandal originated, had a history of problems with the BBFC over the years. The original cinema version was heavily cut with edits to several murders, basically. The poker murder and the slashing of Anne's throat. This print was later released on video prior to the UK's Video Recording Act of 1984 and then banned as a Video Nasty, obviously. The film was officially made available in 1988 through the print had been pre-edited by 34 seconds, removing the cinema cuts as well, and then additionally cut by 4 minutes 11 seconds, with further cuts to the opening stabbing, the bat attack, Norman's throat being torn out by Freudstein, and the tracking shots of mutilated bodies in their basement. So they basically cut out all the gore, majority of the gore, you know?
It.
Again, it was released in 1992 through this print, having been heavily pre-cut by the distributors, and removed 7 minutes and 27 seconds of footage. 7 minutes. You might as well not even bother.
Yeah.
Thus rendering most of the film unsurprisingly unintelligible.
Yeah.
7 minutes. Yeah. The 2001 Vipco DVD issue, which is the one I saw, restored nearly all the film's prior edits, but was cut by 33 seconds. Didn't notice at the time.
Yep.
By the BBFC, with lesser edits made to the poker murder and the throat cutting.
Yep.
Although willing to release the movie uncut, the film had recently been prosecuted under the Obscene Publications Act following the discovery of bootleg copies of the uncut version. What's going to happen when you tell people you can't watch something?
They wanna watch
We're
it.
going to want to watch it. Bootleg will appear.
I would have thought the head stabbing was worse than a throat slash.
Maybe because it's so quick.
I don't know.
We'll get into that. We'll get into that.
Yeah, but...
Anyway, those bootleg copies, basically, it almost forced the BBFC to go, all right, well, fair enough, we have to cut it. And eventually, obviously, we reached 2009, our DVD, 2009, Blu-ray. We are great, and we're totally uncut. And including an Anchor Bay DVD version. You can now get a Blu-ray as of 25th of October 2011 with a new 2K transfer, which is where we're at right now. Yeah. So, yeah, definitely one of the more severely cut, that we've covered up to this point.
But I could see when we was watching it, I was like, well, that's...
It's weird that we noticed it way more in this one.
Yeah, we're like, well, that's quite gratuitous. What we've kind of seen patterns of is gratuitous and up close.
Yeah, this movie...
The lingering shots.
Yeah, this movie loves to linger, and then get right up and close. Yeah. And it does enjoy that, which is what we noticed.
It's almost like the makeup effects person did directing. It was like, this is what I worked on, guys.
Yeah.
It. So.
Obviously, as we've said, directed by Lucio Fulci, starring Caterina McCall, Paolo Malco, Anna Pieroni, Giovanna Frezzi, Silva Coltania, and Dagmar Lasanda. So we're going to get into the plot. I'm going to bring up the cast so we've got people to reference. So the movie opens almost abruptly, straight away, really, which is we're just introduced to this random woman, this random young girl inside this very decrepit house. We see the house from the outside. It's a really big, large, pretty house.
Yeah, I like it.
In a cemetery.
Yeah.
I suggested that it was more than likely,
Coffee.
not a morgue, where you go to have bodies embalmed, an undertaker's house, because it was in the cemetery and stuff like that. Had the look of it. It reminded me of the Phantasm house in the very first film, which of course was an undertaker's house, and that reminded me of that. Yeah. So we hear this woman, and it's the one and only nudity you get. She's putting her shirt back on, so you get some boobs.
Very mild, isn't it?
Very, very mild. It's the only thing. Yeah. Almost like, you probably couldn't just had her have the shirt on. You didn't even need it. Yeah,
or even bra if you wanted to kind of even go less than that, but it wasn't.
It doesn't really matter.
It's a 20 story, yeah.
Yeah, this is Daniela Doria, just credited as first female victim.
Yeah.
And she's calling out for her boyfriend.
Yeah.
So you quickly established they snuck in, they've been banging around, messing around, and he went off to do something. Yeah. She's like, oh, you dressed whatever, but I presume he went to take a piss or something. Yeah. Anyway, she can't find him. She starts to hear noises, that kind of thing. Yeah. She goes into the kitchen of this area. The door swings back. Oh, the basement door's open, which is an important thing because the basement's where the majority of this film takes place. Yeah. And the door behind her swings closed to reveal her boyfriend, the first victim, hanging on the back. He's pretty messed up. It looks like his skull's partially exposed and his kind of chest has been ripped open a bit. Yeah. So, that's your first kind of like... That's your first death, isn't it? First shot, your first kind of gore. It's within the first 3 minutes. Yeah. So, you're a bit like, oh, okay. Straight in. And it quickly follows that up, and she's like, oh, obviously. And then you sort of see a rotted hand out of nowhere with a knife, and this is pretty awesome. Like, with force, back of the skull, through the mouth. And it actually looks really well. It looks good. And the force he puts into it. Because again, sometimes you see in films people get stabbed and it's like, no, you physically know you have to put more pressure on to do that. So the force that you kind of get the idea of is really quite impactful. Yeah, it's quite uncomfortable. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, well, that's getting cut. Yeah, that was, weirdly enough, that was a later edit, not so much the original problem. Really and weird. Because obviously I do think it's so quick, that's not. It's the one that doesn't linger because even then, like she falls down, you see the knife protruding out her mouth. It's not loads of blood. Yeah. He drags her off her face. She's face down, so you don't even see the face. Yeah. And it's just a streak of blood as this person or thing drags her off. Yeah. And we kind of get our introduction, the title of the film, and so on, and a lot of dwelling shots on this photo, this picture of the house, where we see a young girl in the window. Like the picture was taken with a young girl in the window who's kind of. It's this pose. Yeah. And it's basically she's warning, and it seems like it's a warning towards the young boy. We're now introduced to the young boy, which is the son of Lucy and Norman Boyle, Bob Boyle. Bob Boyle. That's even worse. I know. Stupid name. We did laugh at the fact that they call a kid Bob. Like, he's so young, it would be Bobby. Yeah. Very cherub-faced, blonde hair, really quite long as well. I find him quite irritating. Yeah, the problem is they have dubbed his voice over. They've done it as well as they could. You did notice at times, but they've tried to dub it where obviously the boy's voice either was unintelligible or not, but it's quite high-pitched and squeaky, but also clearly an older child. Yeah, it kind of gives him sort of like a precocious sound, and it's quite irritating. Yeah, it's not great. It's not great. But here's the thing, Giovanni Frezza, he's a good actor. Yeah. The boy is a good actor. Yeah. Great facial expressions, great reactions to things, how he handles and takes things in his stride. he's a good actor.
Yeah.
One of the better things about the movie.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't dislike him. What I often do in these Italian horrors, the kids tend to be quite jarring.
Yeah.
He was all right.
Yeah.
He was all right. And there's times he was even cute, like the whole
Yeah.
getting the torch and the gun and all that, you know. That's a kid's thing to do.
Yeah.
So Bob's looking at this picture and he's fascinated by it. We're then introduced to Lucy, his mother, which is Katerina McCall. She's a good actress as well, I think, in this. Kind of typecast for certain parts about hysterical women and stuff like that. She does as well as she could, I think, considering it. Bob wants to point out the picture to her. Hey, look at the little girl in it. She looks at the picture. There's no little girl in the window. Ooh. Yeah, we get this, I must say, goes on a bit too long. Yeah. It's a good 1 to 2 minutes of this sort of sequence. Yeah. Because then, like, they go out and it's back to the picture again, zooming in, and it's the girl.
I feel like they're really happy with that idea. Oh, it's a good idea. Let's put a bit more of it in there.
Like, we have the technology to get close to this photo.
Yeah, let's get in there and do it,
Another thing we'll warn you, this movie adores its close-ups. And a lot of them are great and work really well, thanks to the actors who have very strong eyes. Yeah. I will credit Paolo Molko, who's Norman, wonderful eyes. Yeah. Wonderful eyes. So when we get a lot of shots of his eyes, works really, really well. We do get a lot of that. So it's a weird complaint. It's not so much a negative because it's shot well and it's done well and the people involved are good. But it's so often, you know, okay, you start to notice it more. You're like, I'll stop doing that. So they go back, basically, to meet the husband, Norman, as we previously said. So the story basically is, Norman is a researcher, scientist. Yeah. And excuse us, because this is not explained well in the movie at all. His predecessor... his predecessor, who is, what's his name?
No, was it a peanut? No.
Peterson.
Peterson, there you go.
Yeah, Professor Peterson killed himself, hung himself in his office at work. So Norman is picking up his work to finish it. Apparently he was quite near the end of his research paper. Norman, if he finishes it, will get a pay rise. Yeah. Something like $5,000 a year. She says $5,000 a year. He does say that. So worth it for him. But to do that, he kind of needs to go... Boston to live at the house he was in?
Some village called New Whitby.
Why does he need to go to the house to finish the research? Considering he goes to the office where the research is, what has the house got to do with any of it?
I don't know, because he ends up going back anyway to New York.
Yeah, this is a puzzle, actually. Now we've thought about that. So they go to stay at the house, which Peterson was in.
All these books and studies were there. I suppose it's not like you can't download files back then.
But not only that, we see a point where he thinks he's got a file, opens it, and it's empty. All the work, the research was in the office. In Boston, so why not stay more local to the town?
Yeah, and then just
go to the office, work there, come home. The house.
It was just weird to had to get him there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you know where you get him? Is that's what all the research was? Yeah. That's what all the research was. The office was there. Yeah. Wouldn't that make more sense?
Yeah.
Huh. One of many plot issues.
Yeah. So because you have to do quite a lot of work for yourself.
You do, and you have to be willing to sort of let the time pass.
Yeah.
And accept that they're not going to tell you things that have happened. So, so that's what he's going. He's going to finish his work, and his work is supposedly related to suicide, studying the history, or I guess presumably a spate of reoccurring suicides in maybe a defined area, maybe trying to find the link. I kind of think of that.
Again, not explained. Yeah.
Also, realistically, that research paper is going to be pointless. Yeah. It's not going to be creditable because it's going to be very difficult. Yeah. To create a cogent link between those, I think, unless you highlight to us, this town has had a spate of suicides over a certain period of time. Okay, cool, this is worth investigating. Yeah. But then is that really something scientific or something more law-related?
We want to be entertained, so just explain it to us a bit more simply, a bit more straightforward, and we go, okay, we're on board now. Yeah. Rather than, we've got to put stuff together ourselves. It might be right. Yeah, there's too much of that.
Yeah, I think...
I feel like if it was longer, maybe they'd cut bits, chunked up.
It's weird that we're complaining that we wanted a bit more explanation about the scientific side of the research.
Yeah, it was just why you had to upheave your family for 6 months.
Yeah.
It seemed like a quick way of getting you there. It was like, okay.
So the story is Peterson killed his mistress. They say mistress, not wife, mistress. Yeah. And himself. So he hung himself at work. Anyway, so Norman is picking up that work, and he's going to... Him, Lucy and Bob are all going to go move to the house he was staying in... finish his work over 6 months period and then go back to their apartment in New York. it's a nice introduction to the characters. Yeah. They're a very cute couple.
Yeah.
Very cute. He's an attractive man. She's an attractive lady. The boy's a cute boy.
Yeah.
It works. They have chemistry.
Yeah.
They have chemistry.
They're a family, yeah.
It's believable. Pack up the car and they drive. Again, it's really, really well shot. A combination of shots in the car where they're just talking back and forth to shots from outside the street, stuff like that. It's all very well done and it's quite contained. It's not long but not short. So we get a little bit of driving stuff. They stop at the realtor, collect the keys, get a little bit more conversation there where it's hinting certain things.
Yeah, like he's been there before.
Yeah, this is a puzzle. So explain this.
So they say, oh, you've been here before. You've been to see the house before, the one you're going to live in. And then he does the worst lying where he kind of looks around with shifty and goes, nope.
The pauses are good. The pause feels like 10 seconds long. It's more like 3 or 4. Yeah. But it was like, well, clearly you're lying. Yeah. Anybody could have seen that.
Yeah, but that's never followed up on. But yeah. So just why have that part? Why bring that up? It does feel like, say, bits were edited out. But yeah, he's such a bad liar.
Yeah, and he will do that again later on. And it's like, wait, are you... And several times they'll do shifty eye bits with him. You're like, oh, clearly something's going on here. Yeah. But honestly... It never comes to anything.
Nope.
Absolutely nothing. It is one of the most puzzling segments of this movie. Such a shame because had they done what we think they were trying to do, we could have got a really interesting extra bit of story here.
Did he know
we'll
more?
Get to it.
Yeah,
we'll get to what we think, what they might have been suggesting. So obviously this house is the house from the start of the movie, the one in the cemetery. They do a decent-ish explanation as why Lucy and Bob are even with him, because we were kind of like, well, why not just stay in New York? Yeah. It's not too far to drive. Well, it is, but like if he's doing research, go work there, come back every couple of weeks, do the work, and that's it. But it's kind of like, oh, you're coming for a holiday, a break from New York City life.
Yeah,
it is like this is a house in a cemetery. This is not holiday.
No, it looks grim as fuck.
It does look grim, But that's why they're there. Get to the house. Obviously, it's run down. They sort of start cleaning it up, as you were. Now, here's an important aspect that I missed, you jumped on and realised. We're then instantly introduced to the babysitter, who is going to be helping Lucy out. And it's Anne, the babysitter, played by Anna Perioni. We are actually introduced to her previously before. So back up a bit. Before we get to the house, I have missed this part, so I'm going to go back. Bob is now getting contacted by the girl in the picture. She's a person. She's an actual person. She's on the street of this near where the real estate place is, and holding a very creepy doll. And she watches a couple of mannequins, including one that looks like the babysitter, Anne. And she watches its head fall off, and it's gory underneath, like it was a human person who head fell. It's basically preempting Anne's death later on. She then mentally, Shining style, talks to Bob, who ends up talking to her back and forth. She's basically warning Bob not to go to the house over and over again. Bob's saying the obvious, look, my parents don't listen to me and stuff like that. Of course, and he's absolutely right.
He's only little.
Yeah, who's going to... Kid goes, oh, don't go to that house. It's going to be like, shut up, kid.
Yeah, we're going there.
There's a brief freak out between Norman and Lucy when they think he's wandered off, but they find him with the doll, bring him back to the car, and then they open the house. Had to get that in because otherwise it ain't really going to make much sense when it comes relating to the girl.
Yeah.
It's May, innit? May's the girl.
May, yeah.
Yeah. Sylvia Colatinia.
Yeah.
So, time jumps, basically. We go from, Norman's got the water on, Lucy's not feeling too comfortable at the house, and then we're introduced, weirdly, to the babysitter, which is Anne. And it's done in a way like she sort of surprises Lucy, and Lucy's like, hello.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm your babysitter. And we get the... Oh, she looks like the mannequin. It forces it in by flashing back to the mannequin and going, oh, look, it's the mannequin.
Well, we could have cut...
It's pretty...
Yeah, so they explain things you don't really need.
And then doesn't explain enough elsewhere.
Yeah, but then you get the scene with Anna meets Norman, and they do the eye thing. Like, it's some sort of
Yeah, this is a weird one. Yeah, we'll do this now then. So there is this scene later on, a little bit later on, where Anne, Norman and Lucy are all in the kitchen, and it does a zoom up close to everyone's eyes, and it's shiftiness between Anne and Norman.
Yeah.
And this is where we were like, and I expected to be, oh, he has been here before. He was either helping his predecessor, probably met Anne, started doinking her, which is why people think they've seen him before, and obviously he's kept that part secret.
Yeah, but it wasn't.
Makes sense.
I have a flashback of them two to get, like, if you're trying to get that across, maybe have a quick flashback of them two together.
But also, then what you could do is have the killer idea. Well, we're left thinking it's Anne.
Yeah.
It's Anne because she's jealous.
Yeah.
She's jealous, and that's why she's integrating herself, hand that rocks the cradle style thing into it, and so on. And then when Anne gets killed later on, we can be like, oh, okay, it would make more sense, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, there is a scene where Lucy says, to Anna, I'm just shame you couldn't come to the restaurant last night. And she looks a bit odd, like, is that jealousy again? But again, it's not explained.
It never explained. In fact, it's not even developed upon. It's dropped. No. It's dropped. It's a real puzzle over that one. Again, but still there's more puzzling relating to her. Really is. So it seems like time them jumps because suddenly, the next scene, everyone's like really comfortable around Anne and stuff like that. Like she lives there almost.
It's like, I'm so glad I've got Anne to help me. I don't know what. It's not like he's a difficult child. He's only got one child.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
And we were like, what the fuck?
Why have you got a babysitter? Like, are you working as well? Not saying you might not need assistance, but a babysitter, like full-time babysitter? It's a bit weird.
Yeah, and it's a bit... We don't even know if Anne really lives there, because we never see her having a room, whatever. No. It's just like, because even later on she asked us, do you live local? Shouldn't you know those details before you hire a person?
Yeah. I don't know where you live, I don't know anything about you, but yeah, come look after my small child.
Yeah, very, very strange. But times jump, basically, and it's my mistake for not noticing, because it was obvious. The house is way cleaner, way tidier, and so on. Norman finds Anne one night when hearing noises. He hears what sounds like Bob crying. Yeah. Bob's asleep. He then hears noises from the kitchen and finds Anne trying to pull the wooden slats off the basement door, which has been nailed up.
Yeah.
Which everyone seems okay about as well.
It doesn't say what you're doing. There's no there's no dialogue.
Which would make sense if he was doinking her and he was like, I don't want to talk to you. I can't believe you're here. That kind of thing.
Possibly. Again, tell us though. Explain it.
Yeah, he just looks at her and she's like pulling the boards off and she looks at him and then he's just like, I'm going.
Yeah. Weird.
Yeah, very, very, very weird. Lots of little bits in between where Bob's interacting with May outside. She often says the same thing, stay away from the house, don't go in the house and stuff like that. We then get to see... we start to hear about Freudstein, a little bit more Freudstein. He finds a file. Norman finds a file with Freudstein written in the front of it, finds it empty. Yeah. That's when he starts to visit the office of his predecessor and find the paperwork there. Yeah. Introduced to a really weird colleague as well.
God. The library assistant.
The library assistant and stuff like that. We get Lucy gets a freak out moment in the kitchen where she hears lots of noises and banging that causes her to have a bit of a freak out, which ties into a sort of subplot about her taking anxiety pills, I think.
Yeah. But weirdly, like, they're all left out on the side. You couldn't show the bottle. No, they're all lying out on the side in a house with a small child, and it looked like sweets.
Well, it's funny because earlier on he suggests, look, you should take the pills again, and she's like, I don't want to take the pills. I don't want to take the pills. It then suggests later on that he gave them to her without her knowledge, because, and it also is a really like plus advertisement for these kind of pills, because like he gives them to her, I think against her will, because he finds her all like almost fetal and stuff like that, and then it cuts to her waking up in bed, and she's like, I feel great and wonderful, and the pills are lined up on the side, and we see him with his shifty eyes again, looking at the pills and look at her. Yeah. It's like, wait, does she not know she took them?
Yeah. It's just like very weird. They did look like sweets, like Smarties laid out on the side. It was just like, again, like another thing like jammed in and not properly told.
Yep.
It was a bit odd, but yeah, I mean their relationship does seem quite nice, but there's bits of it where I think he kind of dismisses her a bit too much for my liking. Yeah. So like if you come home and I said, I heard banging doors, crying children, and Bob was fine. As my husband, I'd expect you to kind of like make sure I was okay rather than going to take your pill. Just shut up.
It's forgotten about later on. Yeah. It's completely forgotten about later on.
She was in serious distress. She was like I said, fetal position. It wasn't just like a slight banging. There was literally everything going on. She really passed out.
Yeah. Yeah. There we get a few more significant developments. One of the more significant elements is that while Lucy is cleaning up, she realizes she finds what looks like first like a trapdoor under a rug, which is actually revealed to be a fucking tomb.
Yeah, that's quite cool.
A tombstone. It's for Jacob Tess Freudstein. Freudstein is the name that keeps coming up. This is one of those where where you get that whole disbelieving thing, and Norman comes back and she's like, look, this is, in so many words, she's like, nah mate, this is not cool.
Yeah.
Norman's like, hey, all old houses have these. Piss off, Norman.
Oh yeah, that well-known thing of having a tomb in
your living room.
Yeah.
Just a tomb in the ground, and hidden underneath a rug. Yeah, that's totally normal.
Weird, very weird.
Yep.
I think and again, I don't know if it's like he's so desperate to stay that. Why? Explain that why.
Well, he's not because what comes shortly afterwards. He's not. That's would have worked except for what comes afterwards. Right. So let's get to it. We then get the thing that Norman's like, hey, I found the keys. I have the keys to get into the basement door. Yeah. It's actually a really cool scene. It's actually weirdly long, but it works. And it's really drawn out. Well, one key doesn't work. Yeah. The second key doesn't work. Yeah. The third key doesn't work, but he has to put a knife into it and slowly turn it.
Dusted up
and then you see it from the bolts in the inside and the dust coming off. I really liked it. That.
It's quite realistic because old doors wouldn't just open, and it was quite a big bolt. So again, it suggests that whatever's down there, you don't really want to open the door for it. But yeah, it was really kind of grated on there. I like that. Yeah.
He goes down there. It's a very dirty, dusty basement. Not been in a while. Lots of cobwebs. Gets attacked by a bat. Hilariously gets attacked by a bat. Lucy comes running down to help him. She then gets attacked by the bat.
He stands and watches.
Norman just stands and watches for a good 5 seconds before trying to help. The bat ends up biting him on the hand. Yeah. This is incredibly gratuitous.
Yeah.
It really is. Perhaps too much. Yeah. Even I would say that. He comes running upstairs, and he's trying to stab the bat. The bat will not let go. Yep. It's very violent. Stops flinging it about. Blood goes everywhere.
Oh, that was quite comical.
It was funny.
Because when you just go to the sink, trying to drown it, cold water, hot water would make it release or stab it in the sink.
This bat is getting stabbed in the back and not letting go.
Yeah, and you're flicking blood all over your kid.
Yeah, Bob gets a face full of blood.
Oh, ridiculous.
Yep. So obviously he has to go to hospital, but this is kind of like the last straw for the family. And he actually go to the real estate to ask for a new house. This is why he isn't desperate. At no point does he go, oh, come on, we're overacting, it's just a bat. That's what you would do if you were desperate to stay, you wanted to stay. They just go to the real estate, can we get a new place? Can it be done? Yeah, it can be done.
Yeah. Okay,
and that is literally it. It's literally it. So while Norman's going to into the hospital, the family aren't there. The real estate real estate agent who helped them the first time arrives at the house to tell them about a new property, I guess.
It must be, yeah.
Must be. She looks around, no one's home. Why she continues to look around when no one's home? Yeah. They've got this horrible habit of horror of just walking around people's houses when clearly no one's home.
Yeah, just go out.
Just all right, I'll come back later. Yeah. Come back tomorrow. Leave a note. Come see me tomorrow at the office.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she walks over Freudstein's tomb, which cracks open, and her ankle goes in the gap, pinning her. Doesn't look very nice, We then see a figure slowly emerging. She screams. And again, this is one of those heavily cut scenes that we talked about at the start, as she gets stabbed 3 times with a poker. Yeah. Once in the stomach, once in the chest, and once in the neck. And this lasts a minute.
Yeah,
a good
really
minute.
Gory. Yeah, let's say the blood.
The neck one particularly, slow motion, spurting out. Yeah, it's pretty fucking graphic.
And when he drags her away, blood looks more visceral when it's soaked into people's hair. Do you know, when her hair's
she does dead well. Yeah. She rolls. One of her eyes is covered in blood and matted hair, so you can't see it. But the other one, she's kind of rolled back.
Yeah.
Lovely stuff.
Don't blink. Oh, you did well.
Yeah, lovely stuff. Looks like a dead body.
Yeah.
Very, very good stuff. So then we cut to the next morning, and once again we get one of the most puzzling, confusing scenes that just relies on us to ignore too much. Yeah. And later really becomes a problem. We see Anne cleaning up the blood. Yeah. The streak of blood leading to the basement, we see her cleaning it up. Yeah. What? Why?
And it wasn't blood that wasn't blood from the back.
No, this is a streak leading to the basement door. Yeah. And there's a lot of it. Lucy arrives, says to her, what are you doing? And just ignores her. Doesn't answer. Continues to sort of wring out the sponge.
I made coffee.
Yeah. She says I made coffee. Lucy goes and starts asking her questions and just blanks everything. No point does Lucy notice the blood. No. This long streak of blood. It's not like she cleaned it up. No. And the fact that you're wringing out bloody water. She says nothing to her about that. She doesn't even look at it. Make it a lie.
Yeah. Yeah. You can say, I found a spot of blood from that bat the other day.
Yeah, there was a bit of blood left. I thought I'd clean it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
That's weird.
But also, why is Anne cleaning... Oh, so Anne's involved, right? Anne knows about what's going on.
Yeah, it was just thrown in to go, oh, she's clearly cleaning up without any qualms. It's like...
She's clearly involved. Yeah. No. Nope, forget all that. It's absolutely pointless. Right, so Norman, Norman, in his research for, I guess, reading, he started to find out more about Dr. Freudstein, who was the owner of the house. It turns out it was the Freudstein house.
Yeah.
And he was the owner of the house, and it's mentioned when we actually see the real estate people going, oh, the Freudstein house.
Yeah. The worst actor of the film.
Yes. We'll gloss over him. And Freudstein was a Victorian surgeon who apparently did illegal experiments. On what? Who fucking knows? Just illegal experiments that resulted in him getting struck off.
Yeah. There's other ways in horror films that actually kind of allude to that. In certain, certainly like in other films, you might find some of his equipment in cupboards, or you might find a book documenting people visiting and stuff like that. Because it did happen, obviously, turn of the century. Before regulation, people do any old shit, wouldn't they? If you went to a barber, you could have like your hair, like you have your like eyes taken out, your hair cut done. So that makes perfect sense. But like, add some creepy elements to it, because I love that's a quite good horror.
Tell us what he was doing, like backdoor abortions,
like, photos or things like that, or just something
like backdoor abortions where he was accidentally killing girls or purposely killing women, stuff like that. That's generally makes you go,
or brain stuff.
Backdoor surgery shit that would get you struck off the medical register. Absolutely, but we don't really get it. So Norman, obviously intrigued because this was what his predecessor was researching, and obviously he's kind of following this thread. He tells his wife he's got to go to New York to find out more about it. On his way, he stops at the office. That's where he finds a cassette. A cassette which was recorded by Peterson. He listens to this cassette. It's a lot of nonsense, mainly due to Peterson's madness. Peterson does mention a bit about Freudstein here, what he found out, but it's very, very hard to follow. It's a little bit too long. It's pretty boring. You might find yourself switching off. But again, puzzling as fuck. Norman destroys the cassette. You're like, why?
Why? I don't know. To protect his predecessors. I don't know.
The guy killed himself and was supposedly mad. There's no protecting the reputation. So it's like, but like, why would you destroy that? Like, again, it makes you go, oh, is he like involved? Does he know something?
Is he shifty? He's got a shifty flash.
We've had all these shifty moments up to this point. Is this what we've got? So confusing. And then we get big event. The event that makes you just go, oh, what you film? You're not even trying anymore. So this is the death of Anne. So at the house, Bob is playing. What's it called? Bob is playing.
How did you get her downstairs?
Bob. Anne. No, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Anne first. Anne is basically thinks she hears Bob in the cellar.
Oh, that was it. Yeah.
The childlike sobbing we've heard. It does sound like Bob crying. She follows that down to the cellar, thinking he's playing a joke on her. The door closes. She panics as something slowly approaches up the stairs. We then see, like in the frame of the camera, a knife appear. So obviously she's about to die, and it is really graphic. She gets her throat slashed 3 times. And we're not just talking like a slash, digging in.
Proper, It's really quite. Again. Makes more sense. So I say we watch films now, we're like that. It's
quite a serious one. Basically, almost it's a decapitation. Although we don't see the full decapitation till afterwards, it's deep enough that's what's happening.
I think Bob's stroll down to help her though.
Which leads to Bob, who he hears her screaming and panicking, and he's like, I'll go rescue her. Like a kid, he really takes his fucking time. Toy torch, toy gun, teddy bear. And he's just slowly and it's not even like it's slow because he's scared. He's just like, we'll go rescue her.
I'll be fine.
Thinking she's just locked in. He gets there, the door's open. He goes down, nothing's there. And then her head comes rolling down the stairs, bang, boom, 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 down the stairs. Obviously freaks Bob out. Lucy comes home later on to find Bob crying in his room upstairs.
On his own.
On his own, on his own as well.
Mum finds him, didn't she? Mum finds him, Bob all upset.
And
asks what's wrong. He said, oh.
He tells her what's wrong.
He said, Anne was head's chopped off and it came down the stairs. And she was like, obviously she goes to investigate, didn't she? Can't find anything and just goes, oh, she probably went somewhere. So she left you unattended and you're not fuming or more perturbed by the fact your babysitter just fucked off and left your child.
It is one of those things where it's the disbelieving parent. Now, I get it. You're not going to be like, oh yeah, my kid definitely saw it. But it's so descriptive and so what he's suggesting, you'd follow that thread.
He was in bits. He was like proper sobbing and you wouldn't go, okay, my babysitter's
missing.
Out of character. Do you know what I mean? You wouldn't employ someone that just...
clearly she gets out of character,
Yeah. And like, she doesn't show any kind of anger in her voice, like, Where's Anne? Where's Anne? Why are you on your
Yeah,
own?
I need to get contact with Anne. Yeah. But she doesn't know shit about Anne.
Yeah.
That's the thing. She doesn't know shit about her.
It's just, but you've got to suspend belief. But when it comes to children and childcare, like, you, as parents, you would not be bothered about that.
Yeah.
So, that kind of,
it's another
annoying.
jarring thing.
Yeah, another really annoying point.
Followed by another jarring thing, which is Lucy and Bob go back to the basement. She's like, look, there's nothing here and all that. And he's like, no, I did see it and all that. Who cleaned up?
Yeah.
Who cleaned up? Because Dr. Freudstein, who is the villain in the movie, certainly didn't, if you see what he's like. So there's that.
It's a tramp.
That absolute issue as well. But this opens up the can of worms. Wait, what the fuck was all the Anne stuff before?
Yeah.
What was the clean up the blood?
Yeah.
What?
What? Yeah.
She was so scared of being in the basement and so scared of the thing that killed her, she clearly was not involved in any way. What was it then?
Oh, it was really bizarre.
It's so bizarre.
Yeah.
So bizarre. So basically, later that night, whatever reason, Bob decides to go back to the basement looking for Anne. He can kind of tie into the whole childish thing, oh, maybe I was wrong and all that. But it's dark, it's late. A child would be too scared for that, I believe.
Yeah.
He gets locked in. He panics at the door. He sees eyes in the darkness, these almost cartoony style eyes. Yeah. And he panics at the door. The door's locked. Lucy comes to rescue him. I do like this sequence as well. I do like it because, again, it's quite tension build. As first she can't get the right key, and then she has to get the right key, and it does the same thing where she has to get the knife. This time the key breaks off. Snaps off. All this time the creature is approaching from slowly up the stairs. We get that as well. We got a lot of POV. So she then tries to open it with a knife.
Snaps that.
That snaps off. We then get a shitty kind of fake out where it looks like something's approaching Lucy from the other side. Yeah. It's her husband for some reason coming in very slowly, even though you can hear all the panic, probably out the fucking front.
Yep, and he takes time to hug his wife quite slowly.
Yeah, hugs her, and then he's like, oh, Bob, all right.
Rather than just go straight to the door, shit, something's wrong, she clearly can't get in the door.
Yep. So he grabs a hatchet, and this is maybe the best part of the movie. On the other side, Freudstein has pushed Bob's head up against the door, and on the other side we've got a hatchet, and it is wickedly done. It's really funny. One hatchet through the door, and we get the double shot where it goes through the door, and then on the side of Bob where it's just right by his face, and then you do it again, the opposite side of his head. Very cool. Very, very cool. And a third one goes through the door, but it actually chops off one of Freudstein's arms, which is his better arm, basically.
I'd be pissed. I'd be like, oh, for God, I've only got one good one.
Yeah, he goes back down the stairs, basically. And, so does Bob. This is where Bob sees the mutilated bodies of victims, basically. We should say early on in the movie, we get this really weird tracking shot of a lot of mutilated bodies as well, including a close-up of a woman's torso that's quite mutilated. One of the other parts that were cut. So Norman and Lucy, they come downstairs, they see everything, and now we get our first proper view of Freudstein. Norman does explain to Lucy beforehand that he's found out everything about Freudstein. Which is apparently that he's still alive. He found some experiment that would keep him alive, but he needs human victims to regenerate his cells. Where and how we found this out, who fucking knows? Because last we knew he was going to New York, we saw him go to the office, listen to the tape, and then we saw him try to visit Freudstein's grave, which turns out isn't there because it's obviously in the cellar, in the house. Here's the thing. So, early on in the movie when Lucy told him about the crypt, did he not look at it? Did he just not look at it? Because written on the front is Freudstein. So he would know.
And it was left uncovered after...
so he never looked at it.
No.
Because why would he go to New York to look for Freudstein's grave? He'd be like, well, he must be buried there. So he never looked at it. The fucking... Stupid what point. On earth? Absolutely stupid. So Freudstein... he looks all right. I don't love it. You liked it more than I did, I think.
I like the fact that wasn't only like distinguishable features.
Yeah, his face is quite waxy almost.
Yeah, it looks like whatever he's doing to keep alive. For certain parts it works, certain parts he still needs more. That makes sense.
I think
good arm.
I think it's likely that when he starts to decay until he takes the cells in.
Yeah.
And then maybe he becomes back more human. Yeah. And we're seeing a part of him that's quite decaying.
We did eyes before, didn't he? Mm-hmm. So. And the arm looked pretty fresh.
Yeah, like one fresh arm, one rotted arm.
Yeah, so maybe replace his bits like a Frankenstein.
Yes, he's not got very defined features in his face. His mouth and nose is kind of like one squashed in thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and his outfit's pretty cool. His outfit's look like a Victorian
lab coat.
Yeah. So I guess actually, it's pretty cool looking. Yeah. It's pretty cool. What's call it? So yeah, there's obviously the standoff. Freudstein, I'll be honest, I don't think he's that threatening. I think the situation down here could have been very easily gone, let's go around him.
Yeah.
And up the stairs.
Like one of them kind of like lummoking.
Very lumbering, very slow. But anyway, Norman tries to attack him and stabs him with a knife.
Yeah.
And it's pretty gross. There's all these maggots and oozing mud, brown, very vile looking. You get a close up of lots of maggots pouring out of this wound. Yeah. Does look pretty cool.
I just thought of Garth Marenghi in maggots, blood.
Freudstein doesn't take kindly to it and rips out Norman's throat. Very graphic, very violent.
I like the fact they kill off the parents because sometimes you get parents surviving when the kids, didn't you?
That's true.
This case, you're like, nope.
There's no real happy ending to this. So Norman's dead. Lucy grabs Bob and they manage to go around Freudstein, who just sort of stands there.
Yeah, he's
sort of stands there like a gormless, But they can't get up the stairs. They go up the second set of stairs, which apparently leads to the tomb, where they see a crack. Yeah. And Lucy's idea is she can force it through. It's stone though, so she can't. Very, very lengthy, drawn out, slow lumbering. Freudstein coming up, them trying to push it through, that kind of thing. I got the tension in the second part of this more than the first. Yeah. Freudstein grabs Lucy by the leg and drags her in a drawn out.
It looks odd.
It's weird because it's done well because it's what kills her or knocks her out at least, resulting in what will be her death. As her head hits every step. Dump.
A face, because it's done from the side angle, it doesn't like a face that makes contact like it would. I think it would be better from behind, pulling it down really fast because and then the last step.
What might have helped was the camera would shake every time as well, like it was doing the head nods.
Yeah, and it didn't. I thought it would look more realistic if it went down on her back, pulling her down really hard, and then the last step you just slam her down.
Well, the last thing is what kills her because he slams her head into the concrete floor. Yeah. She's obviously dead. Yeah. We then get another slow lumbering up as Bob is trying to escape through the crack. This is good. Yeah. This is actually quite tense. And you're all kind of like, come on, Bob, come on. Because he can squeeze his head through the gap. Yeah. And he does. He gets his head through his shoulders and Freudstein grabs his ankle. Yeah. But Bob gets pulled up from the other side by May, who saves him. May saves him, they hug, and then we're revealed that Mrs. Freudstein is May's mother, who we'd heard her talk earlier on, but they'd never shown her face. Yeah. We now see her face, which connects to the tombstone we saw earlier on. Yeah. And the two, she says something about, time to go home. Yeah. She said it several times throughout. Yeah. And May was always like, no, I need to help. Yeah. Or I need to, so I guess she was hanging around to try and help Bob. The three of them walk off hand in hand out of the house and down the road. This is a puzzling one. What does that mean? So they're ghosts, obviously, because they lived in the late 1800s when Freudstein was alive, and this is modern day set 1980s, 1981.
There's one thing that I'm trying to think back to that I'm thinking. When Bob's lying down, is there a point where Bob's lying down on the floor with his eyes closed?
Yes.
Looking a bit bruised and battered?
Yes.
Would they say that he was dead then? And that he was already dead?
They rescued his spirit?
Yeah. Because all three of them are dead, from what I can get, because they were going out through the house as it was back in the olden days. So that was my thinking.
That's a cool theory.
So I thought, because obviously he was lying there with bruised face and stuff, and I thought
maybe Bob was already dead.
Maybe Bob was already dead.
If not, it's not. It's one of so many things where you're like, oh man, we really needed a little bit more there. And then the end credits roll.
Because it's quite a cool storyline. Because from the beginning, you might have thought she was quite a harsh looking woman. Because I think that Bob sees her grave earlier in the film.
Yeah, when he's playing with May.
Yeah, and she looked quite hard faced. Obviously, the photos back then weren't exactly friendly looking, but she looks quite hard ass. And I was like, okay, she might be part of it or just already dead.
Yeah, you kind of think that, don't you? Victorian mother, she might have been cruel.
Yeah, but then when you kind of think, oh, she's helping everyone at the end, I was like, just explain that a little bit more because I quite like the idea of that. The fact that no one survived, but they got a semi-happy ending where he gets taken by caring ghosts, you know.
It is such a puzzling movie because here's the thing. I think it's a good film.
Yeah.
I think what it gets right possibly outweighs its bad. What it lacks is a coherent story and missing too many things that make you go, wait, what? Wait, what? Because ultimately, look at our positives that we don't often get in a video nasty. Good acting. Good visual effects that hold up, not just for 1981, but for an Italian-made video nasty horror. They hold up. It's gratuitous, it's violent. The villain looks kind of cool. The villain idea is solid.
Doesn't look like they do much sort of cutting to mannequins either. No, there were quite a lot of films cut to mannequins.
That's true, you're right. There was a lot of... Yeah, it looked real.
There's sections of bodies, which are obviously clearly made up. But when they show actual bodies, it looks quite a lot like just humans covered in...
They were willing,
so
cool.
There's
a lot of practical effects here, rather than going with, oh, here's a stupid mannequin.
The knife was one of the most kind of vicious looking knife things I've seen.
The knife in the back of the head?
Yeah, but just because of the sheer, like I said before, the sheer force of it made it quite...
It's sudden as well. And the
rotting flesh, because normally you get yellowy pus or you get lots of blood. Never anything brown.
It looked like oozing mud.
Yeah, it looked like he literally was rotting, and that was quite cool. Really like that.
It was. There's a lot of positives about this. The biggest negative you come from is, simply put, it's this incoherence of the story that ultimately you're like, well, if you added a bit here or you did this, and the problem is I think what we would have added an extra 15 minutes maybe at least onto it, which may have been a bigger problem. But then you're like, well, maybe if you'd cut certain segments, could we have cut the whole... But then if you cut the driving to Boston and all that, that was character development for the couple.
Yeah.
See what I mean?
I like that, because I think the sections of story, what they're trying to get into it, were quite creepy elements. So you've got like a botch surgery, wants to have a quick play around and see what you can kind of get out of testing on people. He lives by a cemetery. Was that part of it where you have like regular access to bodies? Not explained properly. You had ghosts in different decades, in different centuries. Like
a possible affair angle, plus a villainous babysitter. None of this was used. You had all this, and you didn't use any of it. But the problem is not so much like you didn't use it. You had a possibility. Is they start things, they imply it, and then just don't do anything with it. And it's like, why on earth do you do that? Generally, one of the most puzzling elements of this film, and it's ultimately a massive detraction for it, because the leaps in logic you require and the amount of thought you need to go, oh wait, and like I said, it's just how quickly he solves the Freudian puzzle. That is all off fucking screen. Most of it's off screen. What are you doing? What are you doing? And here's the thing, why not make the husband a villainous character who had an affair and did all this and stuff like that? He dies anyway. Alright, he tries to protect his family, but he gets his throat ripped out. Do you know what I mean? So there you go. And then have the mother survive with the kid. She could have been close call. A close call where she then managed, and they break free and then they run off. That would have been perfect. There you get at least that.
Frustration with it, really.
Because ultimately it's got so many good things going for it. But ultimately, aside from that, I'm always going to have a very positive slant on this, because I think enough of it's good. It's got this two good elements. It uses the same kind of musical theme a lot, and aside from one time where it just stops dead, which is really weird, it's used very, very well. It's shot lovely. There's some great angles, wonderful shots, low with background where one character is there and the rest is a room or an outside shot and stuff like that. It does the zoom ins well. It does up close shots at the smart points when it wants to focus upon eyes. So none of the complaints are there. But one of the things I highlighted when we were watching it, I think I really liked in the end, it loved to go silent and then highlight a sound effect. So one way I really noticed is when he's putting the tape in the cassette player. It's really loud, that click and all that. It's really cool. I think it's really interesting.
Impact on it,
we're at a big moment. So I think it's one that people should watch.
Definitely.
Absolutely should watch, Yeah,
I really like. I said like the house itself as well. I love that kind of. It gives a bit of a structure. The house is creepy in itself and stuff like that. You really feel the age of it, and it's got proper character to it. I really like that. We should also say about the house is it did it. One of the things I really liked about it as well is it never made it clear just how big it was or where we were. We were like, has it got 3 or 4 floors? This room connects to where, and that really worked. It reminded me of the House and House, which does that wonderfully as well. Where the grandness, you're like, okay, this is big, and okay, you might not notice things because it's so big and stuff like that. You know, a nice little touch. It's a good movie. I do think so. Anyway, let us know what you think of it in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and Tumblr.
Go to Patreon to help us out over there. That's patreon.com/GBHBL, as well as Big Cartel, where you can find some of our merchandise. We have a podcast running on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you like this video, do us a favour, hit the subscribe button and help the channel grow. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?